Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. This is my recap for the 23 anime called Pluto. If you like my recaps, please consider subscribing. The story begins at a forest fire. Some professor named Reinhardt must be stopped from entering as he states that someone's signal is dead. He has lost contact with Mont Blanc, and we see that whoever this guy was looking for couldn't stick the landing. Some guy named Geist wakes up from a bloody nightmare and hears news that a robot named Mont Blanc was found in a forest fire. This robot was a world-renowned mountain guide robot, and he befriended everyone. Unfortunately for the robot, he wasn't world-renowned for surviving as he is now dead. Geist says later to his wife as he is called to work, where he investigates the murder of a guy that was a key advocate for robot rights. Geist is a real boss detective as he brushes off other investigators and easily figures out that it wasn't a robbery since nothing was taken. They check the body and wonder why there are horns sticking out of the victim's head like a ram. Just then, they all rush off since someone has broken through a checkpoint. They arrive to find some cop in real bad shape, and he tells them that his boy got messed up too. His buddy is a robot, and the other investigators can't believe that a robot cop was destroyed so easily. Just then, they are informed that a male suspect in a red cap and tattoos on both arms was spotted nearby. The cops want to team up, but our boy is crazy and just jumps off the bridge. Geist turns his hand into some kind of gun and gets to the church before anyone else. This guy is an amazing detective as he senses the guy and surprises him. Like a true cop, he tells the man to stop resisting when the guy says he didn't do anything. However, there were traces of the guy's weapon on that robot on the bridge, and he can tell the guy is on some drug called Noe. Geist asks when the guy saw his drug dealer last, and he tells him that it was 5 in the morning. Luckily for the druggie, this is the same time as the murder of the guy from earlier, so if his drug dealer corroborates the story, then druggie has an alibi. Geist offers to take the guy quietly, but the guy is high out of his mind and attacks Geist. He easily gets dropped though, and Geist explains that he won't shoot him since his armed gun thing only shoots sleeping gas. Geist states that he is built in a way that doesn't allow him to hurt humans, and we learn that he is a robot. Afterwards, Geist is given the unenviable task of having to tell the wife of the robot on the bridge named Robbie that her husband is dead. This robot offers him some tea, knowing full well that robots don't actually drink tea, and she tells Geist a story about how the family she is a maid for had a dog that died. I guess robots feel emotion because she's clearly not okay, and Geist offers to erase a portion of her memory data, but she doesn't want any of her husband's memories erased. Later, the detectives look at the dead body with the horns jammed into its head, and they're shocked to find that it looks awfully similar to Mont Blanc's head. This could mean that the same person did both, and Geist explains that breaking a sturdy robot like Mont Blanc into pieces is impossible for humans. Furthermore, there were no signs of a human at the horn guy's apartment. This is shocking to the others since this implies that it was a robot, but robot laws state that robots cannot hurt humans. One of the guys explains that if there is a robot out there that can kill humans, then it would be the first time since some incident 8 years ago. Geist proclaims that he will find the culprit no matter what, and states that there is a devil inside of them. Geist goes to speak with Professor Reinhardt, and he gushes over how selfless Mont Blanc was. The forest-loving robot told him not to build a statue of him, and he even asked for his entire body to be melted and recycled when he died. If that wasn't enough, his good deeds get even worse as they overhear that Mont Blanc had joined a war as a member of the peacekeeping forces. Not only did this amazing robot help the kingdom of Persia restore peace from the chaos and turmoil, but he also managed to apprehend terrorists in hiding without bloodshed. Bargain Basement Einstein explains that the guys preparing for Mont Blanc's memorial are all doing it for free because everyone loved him so much. Reinhardt is furious though and tells Geist that Mont Blanc's death was no accident. Reinhardt begs Geist to find out who did it because apparently this old man wants to get his revenge with his own 2 hands. Geist then gets some maintenance done and Dr. Hoffman tells him that something is wrong. He explains that most people think that robots don't get tired, but when they are as similar to humans as he is, a robot can feel exhaustion. Hoffman blames all the difficult cases Geist has been taking on, when in reality, it's probably because Hoffman is breathing up all the oxygen in the room with a nose that could only exist in fiction. Hoffman points out that some are saying that Mont Blanc self-destructed by accident, but as an expert in the field, he doesn't believe a high-performance robot can make such a mistake. This nosy doctor talks about Geist's other case too, and talks about how the guy with horns shoved into his skull named Lanky would often appear on debate shows. He seemed to look down on everyone, so that was bound to make him some enemies. That guy was the complete opposite of the beloved robot Mont Blanc. They then talk about Geist's recurring blood-filled nightmare, since it's incredibly rare to find a robot that actually has dreams. Outside, Geist sees that the police bot named Robbie is being disposed of because they finished the forensic analysis on it. Geist wants to take a closer look, so the man tells him that he can take whatever parts he needs since it's junk anyway. This triggers Geist, and he has a manic vision of a man telling him that he can have an entire body for 500 Zeus. We find that he took old Robbie's memory chip from the trash pile so he could give it to Robbie's wife. Geist starts to leave, but Robo-Wife is lonely and stops him because she wants him to insert it inside of her. This dude must have no conscience at all as he jumps at the chance to insert the chip into a dead man's wife. Robo-Wife begins to spaz out, so Geist tries to tell her to stop, since the memories of Robbie's last moments are also stored in the chip. Geist is ready to pull out, but she gets herself under control and shows Geist what she sees. It's nothing new as a tattooed junkie beats on the cops at the checkpoint. Geist knows that it was strange how easily Robbie was attacked. That's not all though, Robo-Wife having the chip inside of her allows her to explain that just before Robbie was struck, he was distracted by something. Geist is then shocked as Robbie for some reason was looking at the apartment where Lanky was murdered. A closer look reveals something in the sky. Geist assumes it must be a robot since it could jump from building to building, but Robbie's identification system analyzed it and it wasn't. Geist then heads to some top secret place where he is told to put on some protective gear since his artificial intelligence could be compromised by the electromagnetic waves of the thing he's going to see. Our boy is impervious to electromagnetic waves though since he is built from a special alloy. The Overseer still warns him as the thing he's going to see has made victims of the last 4 robots that came to see it. Geist goes to see the thing called Brow 1589. This thing is a mysterious looking robot and it greets Geist, who is apparently the most advanced detective robot. Geist needs its help, so this crazy Brow 1589 laughs and wonders what the detective could want from the robot that killed a human 8 years ago. Geist tells it about Lanky's murder. There were no traces of a human doing it, so he asks Brow if the culprit is a human or a robot. Brow explains that the humans have examined every last bit of his murderous artificial intelligence. They were looking for a defect but couldn't find anything. His artificial intelligence had no flaws at all. This terrified the humans, which is why they keep him locked up. He points out that if they are really that afraid, then they can just pull the spear out of his chest and he would die, but the humans can't even do that. This sneaky robot tells Geist that if he wants to know more about murder, then they should exchange memory chips. Our boy is too smart for that though, and just shows the pile of junk pictures of the 2 cases. Brow explains that among the ancient gods of Europe, the god of death had horns. He goes over some other mythology, and his final one is the Roman god of death, Pluto. Brow explains that whoever did it will strike again. Mont Blanc is among the most advanced of all robots, but he was destroyed so easily. Brow talks about the other top-class robots created with the best technologies in the entire world. Robots who can also be weapons of mass destruction. Brow is certain that Geist knows what he is talking about, and points out that including Geist, there are 6 more. Elsewhere, some old decrepit dude plays the piano and tries to shoo someone away because he is working. The uninvited guest apologizes, but explains that the old man's security seems to have been disabled, and points out how unsafe that is considering the old man's blindness. The old man, who is named Duncan, explains that no one would come all the way out to the wastelands just to rob him, and he wonders if this guy is just another good-for-nothing butler that was sent over. This butler's name is North No. 2. Duncan was told by the staffing agency that North has military background, but the old man thinks that this guy is just too boring. However, North reveals that he wears a cape in public, which makes Duncan realize that North's whole body must be a weapon. North talks about a movie he just saw that really moved him, and Duncan explains that the music he composed for it was a huge success, sweeping all the film music awards. However, he is well aware that the critics have turned on him, probably saying that the old man has nothing left in the tank. Duncan explains that his talent is still alive and well, he just refuses to compose anymore. The nosy robot points out that Duncan was just putting work in on that piano, but Duncan explains that was just for himself. Duncan spits out the tea he was served and absolutely roasts North when he says that the tea is just as dull as his name. The robot then does work while old Grumpy slaps on his piano. Duncan later asks North how many humans he killed in the war. North reminds him that robots can't kill humans, so Duncan determines that he must have killed his own kind. He sends North away by rudely stating that tasteless meals become even blander when he is around. North takes an opportunity to play the piano, but must apologize when the furious Duncan catches him. North points out that the old man has cutting-edge technology all over the place, but still decides to just play the good old piano. Duncan says that all those other things are fake. He compares it to why he decides not to use artificial eyes. Anything he could see with the help of machines is fake. Sometime later, North checks up on the old bat and finds that he is moving in his sleep. Later, North gets caught jamming out again, and Duncan tells him that any music the robot makes would just be fake. North continues to just ignore the old man's relentless insults and points out that he was humming in his sleep. North thinks that melody would fit him perfectly in the piece Duncan has been working on, and gives him just a sample of what it could sound like. The old man becomes furious and demands that North leave, but North instantly just says that he wants to learn how to play piano. North acknowledges that whatever he plays will be fake, but he explains that he would like to get as close as possible to the real thing. Duncan says that a weapon like North could never play the piano, but North shows him what he's made of as he touches a bunch of keys. It's honestly pretty bad, and Duncan tells him that he belongs on the battlefield, but North explains that that is precisely why he wants to learn to play piano, because he doesn't ever want to be on the battlefield ever again. We then see a quick memory from probably centuries ago, where a young and energetic Duncan desperately searches for his mother. Duncan wakes up to eat breakfast, and the blind bat wonders if North is still in the room. He is furious to hear that North is actually playing the piano again, and reminds North that he is not allowed to touch it. North thinks he's getting better, but Duncan points out that the only improvement a robot could make is in precision. North tries to show him the melody that the old man hums in his sleep, but Duncan loses it and goes on an absolute rampage of destruction. The machines can produce infinite melodies with just data, but that's not music at all to the old man. He shows the machines who is boss with his cane, but North points out that he's just going to damage them. Duncan sees that North is trying to protect the machines and asks him again how many of his own kind did he destroy in the war. He demands that North take off his cape and show the world the hideous weapon that is his body. The old man has gone bonkers and reveals the real reason he hums in his sleep, the nightmare he has been having for so many years. Not just a nightmare, but the reality of his past. He reveals that his real name is Paulo, and his father died before he was old enough to remember. Paulo was struck with an illness from birth, and he looked like a dweeb because his eyesight was so poor, so his only joy was singing songs. His mother was once approached by a man enamored by her beauty, and she became blinded by her greed for that man's money. She abandoned her son, and poor little Paulo was sent to a boarding school. He was bullied constantly, but he was desperate to continue studying music. He strained himself way too much though, and developed a persistent fever so bad that he couldn't continue studying music. He was sent from hospital to hospital, but his condition worsened. The doctors eventually gave up on the poor kid, and he never heard from his mother. He thought he was going to die, a fitting ending for an abandoned child. Just then, a Japanese unlicensed doctor arrived and confidently told Paulo that he would save his life. However, he might go blind as a result. The surgery was a complete success, but our boy's vision started to deteriorate day by day. This made little Paulo throw himself into music even harder, and it was all he had. Eventually, darkness came, and he would later be informed of his mother's death. She never married that dude she was with. She died alone, but that is what she deserved for abandoning him. Duncan became the maestro of the music world, and now lives in the house of that man his mother was with. He takes great joy in having the things that his mother wanted, and states that he will show her what is truly important. He will turn the beautiful scenery into music and show her what it is that humans should never throw away. North wants to say something about his mother, but Duncan silences him and tells him to leave forever. Duncan rolls away but hears North playing the piano again, and thinks about how North said that he never wanted to return to the battlefield. As North plays, we see his memories of when he was dropping other robots on the battlefield. It is truly a sight to behold as he easily dismantled all robo-troops around him. The old man listens a bit more and finally concedes that North is getting a little bit better. Sometime later, Duncan notices that North is preparing for his departure the next day. He realizes that North is having a nightmare and is shocked that robots are capable of having dreams. The next day, the grumpy old man calls out to North, but realizes that he really must have left. Sometime later, Duncan waits for a call about getting a replacement butler, but finds that he's being called by a movie guy with a job offer for him. Duncan doesn't mind listening to the details, but is shocked to hear this guy just wants permission to use one of his old pieces. He tells the man to do whatever he wants and hangs up on him. Later, Duncan thinks about the melody North was trying to play and decides to give it a try. As he plays the beautiful song, thoughts of his nightmare come out and he sees his mother, but she is too far away. Duncan begins another one of his classic rampages, but North shows up out of nowhere. North shockingly explains that he went to Duncan's hometown to collect songs. In the process, he was able to find the melody that Duncan hums in his sleep. North offers to sing it to him, but Duncan tells him to shut up and not intrude on his nightmare any further. North explains that Duncan's dream isn't actually a nightmare, and it's not something that should be erased like his own dreams. North then concedes that he is solely a weapon, and he destroyed tens of thousands of his own kind. His artificial intelligence plays those memories of him killing his own kind over and over again in its mind. North explains that he met a man in Duncan's town who revealed that Duncan's mother was the singer of that song. North explains that he has data of Duncan stored inside him and reveals that his mother did not abandon him when he was suffering from illness. She actually approached the multimillionaire Jonathan Thorne to help get treatment for Duncan. That is how she managed to afford the astronomical fee for the Japanese doctor that would eventually save his life. She actually never abandoned him and was right by his side when he went blind. She learned that Duncan had a deep hatred for her though, so she never reached out to him. North points out that the old man is excluding something from his memory. He and his mother used to hold hands while singing that song. This robot then shows off his vocal prowess and begins to sing the song. Duncan can no longer avoid his real memories and recalls how he would hold his mother's hand. He breaks down and North apologizes as it's only the sounds of a machine. North reminds him that Duncan's dream is not a nightmare, his dream is not like his. Something completely changes in the old man as he tells North to never return to the battlefield and for them to practice the piano. Months and months then pass as the two become very close. North progressing on the piano and his diligent teacher instructing him. One day, North overhears Duncan playing and runs to his side when called. Duncan wants to show him a new piece that he just finished, but North unfortunately can't as he explains that something is approaching. Duncan wonders if it's a friend of his, but North just asks him if he's aware about some news from a few days ago. It was about the robot called Mont Blanc getting destroyed in a tornado. North then reveals that a tornado occurred very close by just a moment ago, and some sort of great threat is approaching. North heads outside where he removes his cape and reveals every weapon that could fit in his body. Without a single bit of hesitation, he rockets off into the sky, and Duncan comes out to see what is happening. He has no clue what is happening as lightning fills the sky, and he is shocked by a huge explosion. Duncan calls out to North, but he is nowhere to be found. Just then, he can hear North singing his mother's song as it spreads throughout the sky. The old man is filled with emotion to hear North's voice just as another explosion occurs. The very sad Duncan then asks North to stop singing out there and come inside as it's time for their piano lesson. Elsewhere, Geist finds a young boy that picks up a snail and he introduces himself to the boy named Adam. Elsewhere, Superintendent Tawashi investigates another victim of the horn murderer, and this time it's a guy named Tazaki. He was the one that proposed international robot laws, the man that gave robots freedom and equality. As if the horns weren't strange enough, Tawashi can't figure out what happened nearby as the house was completely obliterated by something. He wonders if it collapsed on its own, but explains to some robots nearby that a robot with some strength would easily be able to cause this kind of damage. Just then, Tawashi is told that similar cases in other countries are being investigated by the same person, Super Robot Detective Geist. At a restaurant, Geist is very intrigued by Adam since his identification system is having a hard time telling if he is a robot or a human. Geist explains that the boy was all over the news when he went with the peacekeeping forces to a war in Asia years ago. Adam of course went to help defend the peace in that nation, but they treated him like an idol or a pop star there for some reason. These two are both robots, so they are only pretending to enjoy their meal, but Geist is amazed since Adam is much more believable, it's almost real. Adam isn't sure if it's real human emotion, but he says that he can feel the joy in his heart. Geist is amused by how Adam clearly looks like a child, but knows that Adam's AI is far more advanced than even his is. Geist reveals that Mont Blanc and North No. 2 were both ended in a series of murders. It's clear that Geist is worried for Adam's safety, and he explains that it's because the murderer's goal seems to be to destroy the 7 most advanced robots in the world. Adam would like to see the detective's memory chip in case he missed something, but Geist declines as it contains classified information on other cases and his personal data. Adam gives him the stare of death, and Geist remembers that Adam's artificial intelligence is far more advanced than his, so he concedes. The kid finishes downloading the information and agrees to delete everything not related to the investigation. Adam then strangely goes to the bathroom, which he says is just another habit he developed while mimicking human behavior. There, Adam can finally express his sorrow as he breaks down in tears after seeing something that Geist has been through. Afterwards, Geist explains that he will be leaving Japan to speak to the other most advanced robots in the world. Adam tells him that he has a lovely wife, and Geist scolds him for not erasing that information. Adam gets very serious though and tells Geist that he and his wife will be okay. Whatever happens, the two of them can handle it. The two say their goodbyes but look forward to seeing each other again. Elsewhere, Tawashi continues investigating the murder, and they use some super cool future technology thing to bring up a 3D replica of the crime scene. Tawashi has a good idea of who the culprit is, but is then shocked to see Adam. Adam has clearance because Tawashi requested international assistance, and Adam reveals that he has downloaded information from Geist. Tawashi seems to have something against robots, as he points out that they don't even know when something is beautiful or tasty. However, he does think Adam might be useful since he believes it was one of his kind that did it. A robot has finally committed a murder. His reasoning is that only robots could do destruction like this without leaving a trace, and a human would have left fingerprints and hairs all over the place. However, Adam uses his super robot eyes to find some recently brewed tea, and points out that tea wouldn't be served if the person had a robot as a guest. Tawashi points out that robots pretend to drink all the time, but Adam then deduces that the victim and culprit sat outside to admire some plants. Adam reminds this jerk of a detective that robots can't recognize beauty, but Tawashi refuses to believe that a human could have bulldozed the entire house. He shows that witnesses said it was a tornado, an unnaturally localized one that only destroyed one house. Our boy just ignores this fool and asks to have the image of the body displayed. Adam is intrigued by the horns coming out of it, but feels immense pain after seeing a vision of the imprisoned robot in Geist's memory, specifically about when it mentioned the lord of the underworld in Roman mythology, Pluto. Things start getting intense as Adam notices that the victim has ink on his hands, and then sees that there were wet footprints leading to the study in his house. He finds an ink bottle that was knocked over while the victim was trying to find something. They find several business cards and are shocked to see that one has ink on it. Afterwards, Adam goes to visit a professor named Mizu. He catches this old dude up on the murders and reveals that just before he died, Tazaki desperately searched for his business card. Adam believes that the professor is in danger, as well as the other members of their group called Bora. Mizu reveals that their group started when the kingdom of Persia was suspected to be in possession of robots of mass destruction. The kingdom was ruled by some dictator named Darius, and its citizens and robots were treated poorly. Darius used overwhelming military might to bring neighboring countries under his control in an attempt to conquer all of Central Asia. The United Nations would then agree to prohibit the manufacturing of robots of mass destruction. The United States president accused Persia of breaking the treaty, so the Bora group was sent to investigate. No one really knew what Bora was, but Mizu, Lanky, and Tazaki were all members. Their group didn't find any robots of mass destruction. The whole reason they were sent over was because there was a rumor about a genius scientist named Dr. Goji, who created the army, but they couldn't even determine if he really existed. They did discover a strange place with piles and piles of robot corpses, but the kingdom just told them that it was a dump for unusable robots. The war started soon after, and a look back shows a very upset Mont Blanc. His buddy checks on him and another robot team member returns. This robot reveals that the one named Brando destroyed 2,895 robots, and he destroyed 2,962. Mont Blanc is too ashamed to admit exactly how many he destroyed, but he just says that it was a lot, and the military-looking dude checks to find that Mont Blanc destroyed an impressive 3,022. Mont Blanc is clearly upset at the massacre and wonders what they are even doing there, since they originally went there for a just cause, to liberate robots from oppression. The others know this as well and find that the palace of Darius is about to fall. They see that the peacekeeping forces have entered the center of town, and see that Adam has it easy as he is known as the emissary of peace. Back to the present, we watch a tournament BattleBot style. Two robots are going at it as the crowd cheers like lunatics, and the black robot shows what it's made of as it easily wins. The crowd erupts and cheers for the winner, Brando. This was an amazing feat since it was the final round of the tournament, and Brando ended it so quickly. He is undefeated in 936 consecutive matches, and Brando has solidified himself as the invincible hero, the strongest warrior in history. Geist arrives to congratulate him and points out how even though all the contestants wear the same mech suits in the ring, Brando always comes out the strongest. Brando explains that experience is all you need to win most matches, and the rest is luck. Humans usually laugh when robots talk about luck, but Brando explains that he's just a lucky guy. They head back to Brando's home where he is greeted by a bunch of kids that lovingly call him Dad. They all admire him for his victory, and one of these little punks asks Geist if he has any cool weapons. Brando's wife apologizes for the behavior of all the little scoundrels, but Geist says that he hasn't had such a fun meal in some time. Brando is loving life as he points out every day is like a zoo event, apparently calling his children zoo animals. When the kids go to sleep, Brando explains that he would always have to leave his wife alone while she waited without knowing if Brando would be returned to her in pieces. However, that all changed when a law passed that allowed robots to adopt human children. Brando says that he never used to care if he was torn into pieces in a match, but now that he has kids, he wants to live as long as possible. It's ironic how he got kids so that he could die at any time, but now that he has them, he doesn't want to die. Things get very serious when he mentions that he is sure that Mont Blanc wanted to live too. Geist reveals that North Number 2 was destroyed as well, so that is why he is worried about him. Brando confidently explains that there's no need to worry since he is the king of the fighting world, but Geist points out that that is why he is being targeted. Brando says that he wants the culprit to come after him so he can get revenge for what he did to his close friend Mont Blanc. Geist doesn't want him to act rashly and tells him to contact him if he ever encounters the culprit. Afterwards, Geist has the same painful vision of the guy offering him a body for 500 Zeus, and the two decide to call it a day. Before he leaves, Brando says that humans leave things up to chance, but he believes luck is something you have to take. He credits his family for being the reason why he has luck on his side now, and tells Geist to call him if anything happens. They part ways, and Geist just hopes that Brando won't die on him. Elsewhere, we watch another match where some gold robot is dominating. The crowd is out for robot blood as they scream for Goldie to rip the other robot's arm off, but he doesn't and he still wins. The gold-plated warrior just defended the title of world champion and is known as their god of battle called Hercules. In the coming month, Hercules will finally have a showdown with Brando from Turkey, the European champion. Geist goes to visit Hercules as well, and Hercules talks about how he didn't want them to make a statue of him, but the humans love that kind of stuff. Geist wants to talk over some tea, but Hercules explains that he doesn't imitate humans. He says that he is a robot, a killing machine that destroys its opponents. Geist points out that Hercules isn't finishing fights like he used to, as it's clear he even held back against his last opponent. Hercules explains that he has fought against Brando many times, so he knows more than anyone how tough he is, just like he was during the war. Hercules explains that humans love statues so much because they forget. Before their memory fades, they build statues so they can remember. Robots are completely different though. Unless they erase them, their memories last forever. Robots remember things vividly, even mountains of robot corpses on both sides, their enemies and their comrades. That's how Hercules learned about murderous intent. Ever since then, he hasn't been able to destroy his opponents. Geist says that it's called compassion, and Hercules wonders if they are evolving. Back with Brando, his kids are upset that he won't be going with them to the zoo, and he explains that some work came up that he can't avoid. He promises that he will go next time, but the kids are still upset. Brando's wife is a bit surprised too, but he tells her that it's an interview he promised he would do for someone. She's clearly upset, so he tries to explain that as the European champion, he has obligations. During his travel, some guy is upset that Brando took his mech suit, which they call a pancration suit, out without permission. The guy tells him that if anything happens, they won't let him fight in the match against Hercules, but Brando explains that he's only borrowing it to get ready for the match. He tells him to relax as everything is fine, but we see that a storm is forming just above him. Elsewhere, Adam wonders if Professor Mizu thinks a robot is committing the crimes. Mizu points out that the only precedent of a robot killing a human is the case of Brau 1589. Of course, Adam assumes that Brau's AI was defective, but the professor shockingly explains that there was nothing wrong with his AI, it was perfect. Brando arrives at his destination and transfers himself into the pancration suit. He heads outside where the storm is getting vicious and a tornado is beginning to form. The fearless Brando prepares himself by igniting his jets and releasing the exhaust. However, the tornado quickly takes shape and consumes him. Geist is still with Hercules, but he is overwhelmed by terror when he senses something. Hercules tries to get him to say something, but Geist simply tells Hercules to patch in. Hercules does and is instantly shocked, so Geist signals for Adam to patch in as well. Adam patches in and we see what they are all seeing. It's the huge tornado, and with absolute fear in his voice, Adam asks Geist what they're looking at. Geist reveals that it's communication from Brando. Brando is clearly struggling, but he tells them to keep the channel open, as he is determined to show them the fight he has in him. The others begin to understand what is happening, and beg Brando to stop and run away. Brando isn't giving up, so they find his location and begin rushing to him. Brando explains that he is avenging Mont Blanc, but Geist pleads for him not to take on this enemy head on and tells him that they are on their way. Adam urgently tells the professor that he must leave as someone is attacking Brando, but he feels a surge of pain through the transmission. Brando can't believe how strong the enemy is, but can't even explain what he is seeing, and the others get a glimpse of what he is experiencing. In the tornado, they see a horrifying creature, but only for a second. None of them have any clue what they just saw and realize that they have lost communication with Brando. The tornado seems to have ended, but Adam is horrified when something falls into the ocean. Brando's voice is calm as the communication returns, and he reveals that he did it. He beat it, he won. However, it got him too. Hercules tells him to hold on as they are on their way. Brando sadly tells him that he was looking forward to their next match, and is certain that he would have won. Hercules doesn't want him to talk like it's over for him, and once again tells him to hold on. Brando sends them the data he analyzed on the thing he just fought, but all that ends up getting transmitted are memories he had with his family. Brando apologizes because his circuits are all messed up, and he can't transmit the correct data, but Geist tells him that he has done enough. Adam is at a complete loss for words, but notices something strange in the transmission. Brando apologizes once more as the memories of his family fade, and he reminds Geist that he's a lucky man. He explains that he made a promise to his children that he would take them to the zoo, so he wants Geist to tell them not to worry. Brando says that he's a lucky man once more, but his signal is then lost. The guys finally arrive to where his location was, but only find spilled oil on the water surface and a huge amount of wreckage at the bottom of the ocean. Adam reveals to them that he noticed something mixed in with the signals Brando sent. It was a different AI that had gone out of control, something like noise. He shows them all what he saw, and they are all shocked by the strange crack in the transmission. To Adam, it looks like what the humans call death incarnate, emotion, overwhelming pain. Sometime later, in Istanbul, scores of people mourn the death of Brando at his funeral, including his heartbroken family. The news reports that the ocean floor at the site of his death is covered with wreckage that belongs to Brando. The police were conducting a search, but it would be impossible to recover all the wreckage. Some guy tells Hercules that he needs to start getting ready for his next match or he will sue him for breach of contract. He threatens Hercules as he is the biggest promoter there is, but Hercules just ignores him and points out that the search hasn't found a single thing. Not a single piece of the killer, and all they have found so far are destroyed pieces of Brando. Hercules points out that Brando fought the killer and won, so he can't understand how they haven't found any pieces of the killer. The promoter named Half points out that everyone including the government has given up, so Hercules should stop spending money out of his own pocket to continue the search. Half says that the fans are waiting for the god of battle to return to the ring, and begs him to start fighting again. However, just then, Hercules is told that they have found Brando's arms. Hercules tells them to take care in recovering them, but they explain that things are complicated, and the arms were not found on the ocean floor. Hercules instantly rushes to the rock where they were found, and is shocked by what he sees. As he ascends the rock, he finds Brando's memory chip first. However, what's more horrifying is that Brando's arms are in the shape of horns, confirming that the killer isn't dead yet. Hercules is overwhelmed with rage and loudly screams out Brando's name. Thanks for watching the first couple parts of this recap. Subscribe and ring the notification bell for future parts.